Prescription from a registered.
My duty to announce that we held a executive session prior to the meeting at 6:30. Discuss personnel and legal. I'll call the meeting. Everybody stand for.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll call Dr. Kleiner.
Mr. Hauser.
Lori.
Mrs. Kozar. Here. Mr. Laser.
Here.
Mr. Locascio.
Here.
Mrs. Maines. Here. Mr. Music.
Here.
Mr. Robardo.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Here.
Dr. Zorch.
Present.
Just to be informed.
At this time, we'll have hearing visitors part one. This is where you have an opportunity to come to the podium, state your name and address, and speak of anything on the agenda tonight. Seeing no one, I'll move for adoption of resolution number 124, which is the approval of the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passed. Solicitor's report,
No report, Mr. President.
legislative report, Mrs. Slater.
I just wanted to update that Governor Wolf will be giving his budget address on February 6th. But note that if the Eagles win, so if you're an Eagles fan, if they win, the address has been moved to February 7th because there will be a parade in Philadelphia. But also, in the upcoming weeks, you're going to be hearing about Senate Bill 2, which you have probably heard of already regarding the voucher bill. And it is called the Education Savings Act. And you probably saw an article in the paper or the Tribune Review on, I think it was Saturday, regarding this bill. And proponents of public education believe that it's really a move to support vouchers. And what it basically does is that parents that are in low-achieving schools, and it's about 15% of the schools, can take their subsidy that their district receives for them and basically do an education savings account. And then they can use that money to send their student to a non-public school. And basically then the lowest performing schools will be losing those subsidies. The comments are that other states have been doing this and only about 3% of the population actually chooses to take this if it's offered. But very clearly there's no trend in Pennsylvania to know what that will be. They believe that will be a conversation in the near future in the Senate, and it will be discussed a lot publicly. So if you hear about it, it's Senate Bill 2, and that's basically a brief summary of it. So thank you very much.
Judy, I'd like to ask you a question, if I may. And that was a fantastic report. Have we ever reached out, and I imagine you have, to any of our legislators to ask them if we could have an audience with them?
Sure.
And they probably said no.
No, actually the board has met with them, and we can certainly move to do that again. We're coming up on election year for our legislators, so clearly I can ask and set up a time. The last time we did it, we had done it previous to a board meeting, so everybody was here. So I can certainly set that up if that's of interest for the board.
Well, and one of the reasons I like to do so, and I'm grateful that they'd be able to come, is, you know, since we are getting into the budgets, and they're going to be talking about their budget. And every time I talk to a legislator, they tell me that they are fully funding public education more than what they ever have. And then, you know, I'll talk to school districts where they've said, no, that's not true. So I guess myself as a new board member, what is true? That's what I'd like to find out.
And I think we can certainly set that up, and we can talk about, things like PESers and those kinds of things that obviously the state provides us 50% of the cost of our PESers, so that is a mandated amount that they pay to us, and they pay an additional amount every year because PESers goes up. So yes, they are paying more money, but it's for fixed costs in general. But I think there's far more to it than what I just said, and certainly I can reach out to Representative Reese and so on, and try to get them all in one room. Sometimes it's difficult to get them all at once, but we have been successful in the past, and I can try to do that again, especially if it's during a time when they're not in session.
Thank you.
And Senator Ford had commented
Yes.
that time as well. Yeah. So we can try to get all of them. Try to set that up. Thank you.
Anyone else? Education and planning, Mrs. Haynes.
Thank you. Adam is with us this evening. Welcome, Adam.
So my partner is feeling a little under the weather, so I'm going to be doing elementary, junior high, and senior high. For the elementary schools, there is a parent literacy program that they'll be going through, talking about parents' different reading strategies and things like that. And there's a website that they're going to prompt for them to look into and hopefully help the kids learn how to read a little bit. Sixth grade band side by side, so that means they're going to have all the sixth grade bands at once play together, and I think it's really cool. Because when I was in band in sixth grade, we didn't get to do that, but it was definitely a very fun thing with band night and stuff like that. The art symposium is coming up, and that is a huge deal, especially in elementary school. I remember that. It's a huge deal here, but even in elementary school, you like to get a little choice of how to make your school that much better. It's pretty amazing. For the junior high, there's a directions program that's going to happen. Directions program will be basically, they have professionals from around the area come in and just talk about their job, and the students get to ask questions and ask, oh, how do I do this, or what would be the steps to get to that goal. And I think that's a pretty important thing, especially in junior high, learning what hopefully you want to do and learning that pathway to get there. Senior high, February 8th and 9th, they're going to the National Job Fair. That's huge. I mean, I'm just not talking about geographically. I mean, it's a huge job fair. It's the National Job Fair. But also just the ability to network with that many people and see that many different options at once is a pretty amazing thing, and I'm glad our school does that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to move for adoption of resolution number 125 and number 126 and bundle them. Number 125 is to approve a supplemental contract with Adelphi Village, and number 126 is to approve an affiliation agreement with Vienna University. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor. And second, questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I also move for adoption of resolution number 127 to approve the staffing terms and conditions of the assignment agreement with USA Staffing Services.
Second.
Motion on the floor and second. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The curriculum committee meeting minutes from our meeting last week, January 16th, are attached. You heard a lot of that from the presentation by the principals, is what we went over for the most part in our curriculum meeting. But please read the minutes, and if you should have any questions, just let us know. Our next curriculum committee meeting will be Tuesday, March the 20th, 2018, 5:30 p.m. here in the CSC.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Haynes.
you.
I would like to, finance, I would like to move for adoption of number 128 and 129. Bundle those two together.
I have a question, Mr. President. I wanted to actually ask about check number 76776, which was to the city of Latrobe for the amount of $2,013.60 for land bank. Tell me what that's about.
I can answer that. We participate in a land bank program in Westmoreland County. And what happened is the city of Latrobe remitted the portion of the land bank funds that should have went to the county. They made payment to the Greater Latrobe School District. So we, in essence, then had to reimburse them the money that they paid us so that they could then pay out the land bank. Those properties that are identified, once they're sold and updated for a certain period of time, the land bank gets 50% of the real estate tax that is generated from that. So you should not really see that in the future. Payment should go directly from the city of Latrobe to the land bank. But this year they paid it to us and then we had to reimburse them.
Yeah, I just thought that was odd.
Yeah.
I've never seen
It
that.
shouldn't be processed that way.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Did we get a second?
We have a second.
Second.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do have a question, since we were talking about the city of Latrobe. And I don't know who can answer this for me. The permit for the new elementary school, was that through the city? The building permit itself?
Yes.
And was there a fee?
You know what, Mr. Eduardo, I believe I know the answer, but I don't want to say it without researching it. So if you wouldn't mind, could I research and either get back to you by phone or address it at a future meeting? I just don't want to misstate something.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay.
And just so you know, Kurt and I, the fire drill went off at the junior high, so that's right.
Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 130, which is approved local audit report.
Second.
So a motion and second. Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'll move for adoption of resolution number 131, which is approval of Act 1 resolution not to raise taxes above the index.
Second.
May I ask for a roll call vote, please?
Okay.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Oh, serious.
Any other questions?
Mrs. Mays, will you the second?
I will have a question before I vote, or should
Mrs.
I?
Mays, will you the second?
Yes, she was.
Do we need to clear up what Act 1 is?
Basically, what we're asking the board to do is to adopt a resolution stating that we, as the Greater Latrobe School District, will operate within the state index. As a reminder, the index for our school, the adjusted index is 3.1%, which basically means that the board could not increase the millage rate greater than 2.5 mils. Some districts choose not to adopt a resolution and prefer to adopt a preliminary budget, which is due by February 14th or 15th, I believe. And they do so because they intend to raise taxes above that index level. We've reviewed a preliminary budget. We believe we can definitely operate within the index as it stands today, so that's what we're asking you to approve.
So in other words, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's from 0 up to this point.
Yes,
If you choose not to vote for this, it goes from there above.
you got it, yes.
Or it could go to the voters on a referendum, am I correct?
That's correct. So if we vote no, okay, on the resolution and we want to adopt the preliminary budget, we have two options to go above the index. One would be to apply for the 3 exceptions that are out there. And the second option would be to take it to a vote, to a voter referendum to have the voters authorize us to go above the index.
Okay, and tell me, Dan, if there would be a no vote, and the budget would have to be together by, you had said February,
I believe it's the 14th or the 15th.
and that would be pushing it.
I believe that we absolutely could get a budget together, but the data wouldn't be complete. So, for example,
It'd be skewed.
yeah, we receive 37% of our revenue from state and local sources. My bet would be on February 14th, even though Governor Wolf has a tentative presentation for February 6th or possibly February 7th, that those numbers are still going to be very pie in the sky, not necessarily realistic. So the budget that we would adopt as a preliminary budget, I wouldn't believe is very accurate.
But by voting yes, we're saying that this board will stay below that amount.
That's right. If you vote yes on the resolution, I'll certify a letter to the state within 5 days, and I'll provide them with a report that is on their forms notifying them that this is the maximum budget that we will go to, and will not exceed 2.5 mils.
And the referendum only is giving you permission to go above.
Yes, the referendum, and again, there's two ways to go above the index. One would be applied to the state for previously identified exceptions, and I believe they're retirement, special education, and some level of debt service. We would not qualify for the debt service piece. So that's one method to go above the index. The second method would be to go to a voter referendum.
Any other questions?
And the voter referendum would state what the tax increase would be.
Who would be for it? That's
If
right.
it would be approved, not that it would be over a certain amount.
Right, you have to put together what's called a non-legal interpretive statement justifying, clearly explaining to the voters, we're looking to go above the index by this amount because, and it's supposed to explain why there's a need.
Well, you're saying above the index. You're not stating, or the vote would not say that the voters would have the opportunity to say whether there's a tax increase or not.
You're correct, no, yeah, so as long as the tax increase is below the index, there's no need or there's no requirement for a voter referendum. It would only be for a millage increase above that 2.5.
Any other questions on the motion? Do I have a roll call vote?
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mrs. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Laser?
Yes.
Mr. Locascio?
Yes.
Mrs. Maines?
Yes.
Mr. Music?
Yes.
Mr. O'Bardo?
I'm going to vote yes, but I also wanted to go on record that I will not raise the property taxes for the Greater Latrobe School District. Yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Dr. Zorch?
Yes.
It's a 9-0.
9-0. No, that motion passes. I've also moved for adoption of resolution number 128, or 132, which is the approved gift grants and donations.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions?
What baby grand piano are they buying for? That's cool. Great.
Can I make one other comment to Mr. Hauser? The anonymous $100 food service donation for student delinquent accounts is a really cool thing. And I want the public to know that if they want to give to the district and really directly help students, that's a cool thing to do. We do have a few, not a lot, but a few students who have delinquent accounts, and that goes directly to help a student. So I think it's a great thing. And I applaud whoever this person was. I appreciate it.
Was that just for like a student, or was that get divided by?
You know, it's actually can be assigned to any of the students that have a delinquent account. And what Mrs. Malloy has done is she's identified that she believes is the neediest. This is actually the second contribution we've received in the last several months. You know, so it is a really cool thing, and we're hopeful maybe some people will be made aware of it, maybe read about it, and there's more people out there, I'm sure, that if they know that there's a possibility of doing this, might latch on to it and push more. So.
Absolutely. Any other questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 133, which is approved Neopost postage machine lease.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. Finance meeting minutes from January 16th are attached, and the next finance committee meeting will be Tuesday, February 13th, 5 p.m. at the CSC. Facilities and operation planning. Next facilities operation planning meeting will be Thursday, February 8th, 2018 at 3:30 p.m. at the administration building. Student activities and recreation, Mrs. Mays.
Thank you. There are still 2 senior nights listed, and if you could possibly attend, the students appreciate that. The girls' basketball is on January 27th, and the boys' basketball on February 2nd. And the athletic committee meeting minutes from January 18th are attached.
Thank you, Mr. Mays. Community relations, Dr. Zorich.
Sadly, I must report no relations this month.
Thank you, Dr. Zorich.
Never visited.
Westmoreland Intermediate Unit, Mrs. Mays.
The WIU committee meeting is being held this evening as we speak at 7 p.m. in the WIU boardroom. The next one should be February 27th.
Thank you. EWCTC.
The next,
Music.
thank you. The next EWCTC Joint Operating Committee will be tomorrow, which is Wednesday, January 24th, and that will be at 7 o'clock at the EWCTC building. And that is everything.
Thank you, Mr. Music. Board Policy Liaison, Mrs. Mays.
Yes, we do have some board policy that needs revised, but we have yet to set up a meeting that's to be determined, and we'll let you know.
Thank you. Technology, Mr. Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing to report. However, we have a meeting on February 13th here at the CSC at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Palmer. Superintendent's recommendations.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 134, which is the approval of the resignation of Dr. Cindy Soltis, Director of Pupil Personnel, effective December 6th for retirement. In addition, the Board of School Directors recognizes that beginning on August 29th of this year, Dr. Soltis will continue her employment as an hourly employee, mentoring and supporting the transition of the special education department.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passed.
And I would just like to note that I know that it is a long time from tonight until December 6th when Dr. Soltis officially retires, but I would like to take this opportunity to personally thank her. Dr. Soltis has been with the district since I arrived here in September of 2008, and she has done a tremendous job in supporting and helping the students of special needs in the district, and I know that all of you know that as well, but we have really come so far, and it's because of her leadership and her knowledge and her wisdom. So thank you very much, Dr. Soltis. Look forward to
You're
this
welcome.
last year.
You're welcome. It's been my
Thank you.
pleasure.
I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 135, which is the approval of professional personnel to substitute teachers that are listed.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 136, which is the approval of the support personnel classified appointments.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and second. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
And I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 137, which is the approval of the support personnel supplemental appointments.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
And I'd ask the board to move on resolution number 138, which is the approval of the school site intern for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
And I'd like to ask the board to approve or to move on resolution number 139, which is the ratification of the agreement between the Greater Latrobe School District and the Service Employees International Union Local 32BJ AFL-CIO, and this is a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion on the floor and second. Roll call vote, Dr. Pines.
Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Mrs. Cosar?
Yes.
Mr. Laser?
Yes.
Mr. Locascio?
Yes.
Mrs. Maines?
Yes.
Mr. Music?
Yes.
Mr. O'Bardo?
May I ask the question before I vote? The cost of living raise, am I able to ask what that is?
On average, for the food service employees, it's about 2.4%. And on average, for the custodial maintenance group, it's about 3.1%. That is just specifically speaking to wages.
Okay, these are some of the lowest paid employees in the school district, am I correct?
There are lower paid positions.
Where I have a little bit of a problem, and I don't have a problem with the 2.41% cost of living increase. I have a problem that I think there's a lack of fairness in the school district. And nothing against any of the administrators or the superintendent or the assistant superintendent, but on a yearly basis, you get raises of either 3% or 3.5%. I have a problem with that. And where I really have a problem with that is that when taxes are raised, when taxes go up, we're giving out raises, and 3.5% of more than $13,000. When I say $13,000, I think that was the average salary of a cafeteria worker. So basically, they're getting the 2.4% of that figure, and it's probably about $300. But when it comes, and the administrators run the school district, I understand that. But I see raises or adjustments coming out anywhere from $2,000 to $6,000. And I've only been here for 2 months, and I can't make an assessment of how everybody's job performance is going. I will be able to do that hopefully within a year, but I can't do that right now. But I'm just looking at fairness. And also, I really care about the taxpayers, and I'm sure every board member does. But when you raise taxes 1.75 mils, and it just seems to me that it's been business as usual, it can't be that way. As a township supervisor.
Mr. O'Connor, I'm terribly sorry to interrupt you. We're actually in a vote, and you need to cast your vote. You had asked a question before you vote. I'm sorry to interrupt you. There's no problem with the discussion, but we need to do it at the discussion time. So if you want to finish up your thought and then cast your vote, please.
I'm just going to say yes.
Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Dr. George?
Yes.
And not motion about it.
Well, no, sir.
There's it's moved and seconded, there's a period of time to make comments or.
Just to finish up, I'd like to note that it is School Board Recognition Month. It was at the beginning of your agenda. Every January, PSBA recognizes everyone's voluntary time to support public education. The small gift in front of you is simply recognizing that. So thank you for all of your help and your support and your support of public education. In addition, the meetings in February, the 13th and the 20th. And just note, with Mrs. Alshouse not here, the senior nights are on here, but on Saturday night is the cabaret that will be held here in the CSC, I think. Am I right, Mr. Mason?
That's right.
It's a great time. Our students here at the high school perform and raise money for the 240 marks. So if you're interested in coming, I'm sure you'll be welcome. Thank you very much.
Here in school meeting, we'll now have hearing of visitor part 2. This is where anybody in the audience can come forth and with any of their concerns.
One
name's Ron Simmons from 308 Cherry Street, Latrobe, Pennsylvania, 15650. I have trouble understanding the pension crisis, and what I'm doing is asking for your help and insight into understanding this pension crisis. This is a problem, a serious problem. And my question is, what can the school board do to help control this pension crisis cost?
Unfortunately, the answer is they can't do anything other than put some sort of pressure on, local representatives to act at the state level. The pension is run through the state of Pennsylvania. They determine how much local governments or the employers must contribute to the pension on behalf of their employees. Years and years and years ago, the percentage rate was around, a little over 1%. It's up to 32.57% right now. So our budget line item has grown from $1 million to $7 million. So I do agree with you that it is definitely an issue, and it's out of control. Now they've done some revisions to, new hires after a certain date don't receive the same level of benefit, but it hasn't been anything that's going to impact us in the next 10 or 15 years. They haven't really made a significant change to the program. So, other than reaching out to your state legislators and asking them to act, it is not a local decision, unfortunately.
Okay. So this is 100% controlled by the state, dictated by the state. There's nothing we can do.
Yes, it is.
Wow. If the state has 100% control, I guess nothing you can do, but that's, if there's no control, you're just hopeless and helpless. And that leads to depression.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
Now
really
you know our problem.
Okay. I guess we're just at the mercy of the state on this tax burden.
Unless you want to go to the state meeting.
Okay. I guess
They need to hear about
There
it.
occasionally are state legislator meetings locally in Westmoreland County. You should attend. They're enlightening on many levels.
Okay. One more thing, how is this cost calculated? You said 32%. What's it 32% on?
32% on gross wages. So you take your gross wages that you pay out to your employees, multiply times the 0.3257, and it gives you a dollar amount that you're then responsible for. Now the state reimburses us 50% of those costs. Okay, so they're on the hook for 50% of it, as well as the employer or the local taxpayers are on the hook for 50%. We pay the upfront cost, and then we get a subsidy reimbursement from them on the flip side. Mr. Ricardo had mentioned earlier about he had heard, when you talk to state legislators, they're like, well, we've increased our funding to public schools. Well, they've increased their funding because of the state mandate of the 50% reimbursement that we're required to give back to us. When we get that money, it's going straight to offset teachers' costs. It's not being used for education. It's not being used in any other ways. It's going straight to that pension cost. So that's sometimes when we go back and forth with the state legislators, we're like, no, you're truly not funding education. You're funding the retirement system. And they're two separate areas.
And the next question is, how does the state dictate and mandate the $96,649 administrative salary increase in the budget? How did they do that? Do they use a formula, percentage, or how do they do that?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
If you have a formula or an equation, and the state controls 100% of this thing, it's 32% times salaries. Does the state really control 100% of these costs? Or does the school board control a portion of this with the salaries?
Well, I guess what you could say is the school board can control the salaries. So by controlling the salaries, you're reducing your pension obligation. That could be an accurate statement, yes.
So the state doesn't have 100% control of these costs?
They have 100% control of the employer contribution rate.
The 30%.
The rate is set, yes.
And the school board is responsible for the second part of this.
They negotiate
There's two elements.
the salaries,
in this
yes.
equation. And the school board does not. The state has 100% control of that. the school board has 100% control of the second factor.
Yep, that's correct.
The school board has some control over these costs. Is that a true statement?
Yeah, and here's, if I could give you a real life example if I would have known you were going to ask this question. Over the last several years, we've reduced salaries and eliminated positions. And that has been a local decision to do so. And much of that decision has been, yes, somewhat based on need, but also because you can't afford to continue to pay those salaries on top of the state mandated 30-some% that you're required to withhold and report. So yeah, you're right, there is local control when it comes to how many employees do you have, how much do you pay those employees.
You made statements and put it in print that you have no control.
Over the PESER's employer rate, yes, that is correct.
But I'm talking about the cost overall. You do have control over the cost, some of this cost.
Sir, we operate a $55 million budget. Now, if you want to talk about the $7 million that we have budgeted for PESER's, which I thought that's what you were talking about, and the rate, that is what I'm saying we have no control over. Now, if you want to talk about the remaining $48 million, absolutely the school district has control over the remaining budget. So you have to be clear about which one are you talking about.
I'm talking about the formula, the equation. You have control over salaries. The state has control over the 32%.
Yes, that's an accurate statement.
Okay.
Yep.
Then the state doesn't have 100% control over the cost. You should share some of this blame too. You agree with that?
The school board should
No, you
share
don't.
some blame.
So we usually have about a 5 minute. You're a couple minutes over because Dan's been answering you. So would you mind if you want to finish up your
Okay.
I'm sorry.
My viewpoint, you have some control over these pension costs because you control salary. You have an equation with two elements in it. The state controls one 100%, you control the other 100%. So you do have some control. But it's always, we don't have any control. We don't have any control.
Well, I don't know if that's 100% accurate. I think if you were to listen to all the budget presentations that we do, and that are also posted on the website, we do look backs, okay? And what we do is we say, here are our total operating costs with the PESER's mandated contribution rate, okay? And you can see that line goes like this, very steeply, it increases. Then we back out that state-controlled employer contribution rate from those costs, and we say, okay, the remaining is what we've had control of. Does that go like this, or does it go like this? And we found that it's relatively flat, and even in years, it's declined. So, has it declined to the level that you'd like to have seen it decline? That's all in the eye of the beholder, so I can't really get into a discussion with you on that. But when I say we have no local control, I want to be clear, if there's any papers in here, we have no local control of the public school employees' retirement system rate that they set for employers.
Right, I agree with that.
Okay.
But you do have some control over salary.
We have control over basically the balance of the budget.
Yeah, the salary. You have control over salary. Two parts to the equation that comes up with it. If you're in an algebra class and you have an equation and you say there's two parts to the equation, A times B equals C. A has 100% control of A, B has 100% control of B. A doesn't have 100% control of C. And that's what I'm looking at.
Thank you.
Can I just make one comment? I would recommend, Mr. Sinanis, that you come to our budget meetings. They're enlightening, they're educational, you will have a lot of...
Okay, are they listed and posted?
They're starting, when
We'll start our budget meetings in April.
In April.
We'll have those. But I can tell you that those presentations that I've mentioned, I believe they're on the website. And want to hang out afterwards, I can get your contact information and forward that along to you so you can look
I
at
can
it.
use the website.
Yeah, they're posted to the district's website.
But I'm just
There's a lot of value in attending those meetings.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I think what you're reading in the media and what actually happens in the district, there might be a disparity there on knowledge. I don't know that the media is doing it maliciously. It's just a difficult subject to cover all the bases.
Yeah.
Dan does a fabulous job with this presentation.
Yeah, I was just hearing that you have no control. In my viewpoint, you do have something.
And we have done an incredible job of keeping this budget in line with the problem of that rate increasing every year. We've had to cut other parts of our budget so that the impact is not as significant on the taxpayer. It could have been a whole lot worse.
You've controlled it by eliminating positions and all that.
Yes, and cutting paper and cutting, every line item is looked at, every line item. Every building principal has been told to cut their budgets in their building by 10%. That's an ongoing thing. That's a significant amount on my thing.
And tax increases is going to continue, right?
Well, when that PSER's going up the way it's going up.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, I move for adoption of resolution number 140, adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.